Well, g'day and welcome to the shed. I've just picked up this Nordmende Rigoletto radio. I've been wanting to get my hands on a German radio for some time, although I'd have to admit I'm a bit frightened of their reputation for complexity. But first impressions, it's pretty good. The woodwork needs a lot of refurbishment, but it's all there. It's big, very big, solid, well-built radio. It's got the usual piano keys that you get on these radios, and this one has FM, and I've also never worked on an FM radio before, so I don't know quite what I'm getting into here, but may as well dive in. So let's turn it around and see what's in the back of it. Okay, looking at the back here, that all looks pretty undamaged, a little bit warped. We've got all sorts of instructions in German on the back here. This looks like something to do with antenna. Looks like a voltage selector there. Not sure what this is, perhaps serial number or something. Over here we've got, looks like a pickup, judging by the symbol, and an external speaker plug. It's even got the valve layout diagram printed on the back cover, so that should be handy. I'm going to have to translate a lot of this German on here though, I don't know what it means. So, it has these two screws, which looks like is all that's required to take the back off. These have little Bakelite heads on them. They look original. Nice. Okay, so let's see what's inside. Oh, look at that. Looks like a power cord up in here. It's been joined together with this, and it has 2-pin, I guess that's a European plug on it. That's promising in a way, because it suggests that no one's had this plugged in anytime recently. Looking at the valve diagram on the back, ECH85 in there. This must be the FM, I guess. We've got a ferrite rod antenna there, which looks like it's solidly fixed at that angle. Okay, so that'll be an ECH81 according to the diagram, EF89, EABC80, EL84 here. That'll be that one. Yep. And up here we have an EM84 tuning indicator, which I can't quite see yet, but there it is in there. We've got a big speaker with a yellow cross on the back. I don't know what that means. And in the ends here, I think these are electrostatic tweeters, one on either side. It all looks very original. It doesn't look as if anyone's been in here messing around for a very long time. I notice there's a little bit of damage on the case here that I didn't notice before. This corner piece is missing, and there's also a corner cleat or bracket there that's missing. That might be it in there. Let me see if I can get it out. Well, there's one of them. That might belong in here. It doesn't look like it belongs in the corner here, so, but you can see this corner of the case has sprung out a little bit, as if it's maybe had a knock or something. I'm not sure what's happening there, and it's moved away from this bracket a little bit here too. So that'll need clamping up, re-gluing. The case will need refinishing anyway. But first I've got to get the thing to go. And really, okay, where do you start with something like this? I think the first thing I'll do is get a schematic for it. Gee, it's tempting to just power it up on dim bulb and see what happens, but I don't want to throw this away at this stage and do any damage. Oh look, there's something there in the corner. Just a moment. I just noticed it's got these pieces of paper in the back here. They look like train tickets or something. I don't know what they are. I'll have to translate that and find out what it means. Looks like there's another one in there. Let's see if I can get it out. There we go. Zoomspritzen. I don't know what that means, but I'll find out. There seems to be this cardboard, I guess, tray underneath the chassis here. That probably removes from underneath. Oh, it pulls out from here, I think. It's a bit stiff, it's a bit warped. I don't know whether to force it or not. I haven't looked underneath this set actually. I'll have a look underneath and see if I need to take any screws out or anything to do that, although it does seem to be moving. Transformer looks like it's underneath the chassis here. I guess at a minimum I should check out the power supply capacitors before I attempt to fire it up. There's a couple of paper caps along here that will need replacing. Not much to see underneath, except that this does look like cardboard, and it looks like one of the chassis screws has been taken out, which isn't a good sign. It means someone's been messing with it. It's a bit jammed, I suppose, just because it's warped. I'll take that away. Oh, it's had an earth strap on it, and looks as if this was metallic. It's got kind of aluminium foil stuck to it, so this must have at some point provided shielding for the bottom. I'll put that aside and see if I can flatten it out. I'll just wet it and clamp it flat for a while. Wow, where do you start with this? Transformer, voltage selector, there's the push buttons, the piano keys. That all seems to be pretty accessible, which is promising. I think that's the aus. I think that probably means off. Got a paper cap here, a paper cap there. I'm not sure what this, I don't know if you can see that or not. Down in the bottom of the cabinet here, well, the side really, I've got it up on its end, is this thing. It does have plus and minus marked on it. I'm guessing this is a rectifier, perhaps a selenium rectifier. If so, I might have to change that out for a bridge rectifier and possibly put in a dropping resistor to compensate. But getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, I'm really just having a look around first. Well, I've got it the right way up again. Okay, so the power transformer's under here. I can see over here what looks like an electrolytic can, so that solves the mystery of the filter caps. I think I'll have to change that before we go any further. I am noticing a couple of little things. There's an earth connection here which appears to have been cut off. That may have gone to the base, I don't know. And also looking at this aerial wire that goes around here, it appears to have been cut at some point, which suggests someone's been in here mucking around, possibly a very long time ago though. I noticed the dial cords all look to be intact. I wonder if the tuning works. I'll just try turning the dial. It looks as if this radio has two dial drums, one for FM and the AM one is in behind there. I don't know if you can see it. And it's set to AM at the moment, so turning that operates that dial drum. And yes, the dial pointer is moving. It has a second dial pointer for the FM. So if I change to FM, now when I turn the tuning indicator, the second drum operates. I think the mechanism might be a little bit sticky because it's trying to pull the AM drum around a little bit. I'll have to have a look at that. And just checking. It's hard to see without the dial lights, but yes, the FM indicator is moving. So it looks like the dial strings and drums are all working really well. That's a bonus. So now I have to make a decision. Do I power it up or do I replace the selenium rectifier, the electrolytics, the paper caps first and then try and fire it up? I've been overthinking this quite a lot. I think that if I remove all the valves and bring the voltage up slowly on the Variac, I might be able to check it that way and make sure we're getting voltages where we should. One advantage of the selenium rectifier or any solid state rectifier is that I can maybe attempt to reform the electrolytic cap. I've read quite a bit about reforming electrolytics and I'm not at all confident that that's a good way to go. I have ordered a couple of replacement electrolytic capacitors. This has a 100 UF and a 50 UF in one can, and I don't have anything like that. The biggest I've got is 24 UF caps. So I would need 6 of them in all to replace this. I don't really want to do that, although I could do it as a temporary solution until the new capacitors I've ordered arrived. I've removed all the valves except the tuning indicator one, and I'm just going to prise the base off that because I can't really get in there to do much else. Yeah. Well, here we go. I've checked it over as thoroughly as I can. There's no obvious shorts, there's no obvious leaky capacitors or anything like that. So, got it set to dim bulb. I'll put the Variac on, turn it on, that's set to 0. Now, I have this meter set to the AC volts going in out of the transformer into the selenium rectifier, and this meter is reading the DC voltage coming out of the selenium rectifier. So let's just see. That's on. No volts yet. Just turn it up to say, that shows 20 volts there. Not seeing anything yet. Not seeing anything at all. That's on 40 volts. I'm not seeing anything coming out of the transformer. Is everything on? That's on, that's on, that's on. I'll press the off button. Something changed there. And put it back on TA, which I think is pickup, which at least will isolate the RF section. And we're getting a little bit of a reading on here. 60 volts. Okay. So we're seeing 56 volts AC in. This is on 1000 volts range, so I'll put it back to 250. And we're getting about 80 volts. Okay, we have about 100 volts DC coming out of that. Shows 72 volts AC going in. That's a little bit odd, but of course this is reading RMS volts. This is DC. The other thing I need to keep an eye on is that electrolytic cap. Given that this set probably hasn't been powered up for 20 years, I know at least it hasn't been used for 10 because the lady that sold it to me just used it as a display piece. She bought it from the Fremantle markets, who probably bought it at auction, and I doubt if they would have plugged it in. It possibly came from a deceased estate, who knows. But in any case, it seems unlikely that it's been turned on for quite a long time. I'm not seeing any smoke. I'll just see if that rectifier is hot. Doesn't feel hot, doesn't feel warm. I don't suppose it would at this point. I'll just go and check that electrolytic. It doesn't feel warm or anything. I'll just leave it there for a little while and slowly bring the voltage up. I'm going to just turn the voltage up a little bit now, and we'll bring it up to 150 volts DC. and I'll just leave it on that. I'll creep it up bit by bit and see how we go. But no signs of distress yet, nothing's getting warm, no smoke. Okay, it's been a few minutes at that. Let's just crank it up a little bit more. And we've now got 175 volts across the output, 137 volts AC in. Still nothing going bang, which is good. Okay, so I've run it all the way up to 240 volts on the Variac. I've wound it back, taken the dim bulb off, so I don't have dim bulb protection now, but I just wanted to make sure it would run without the dim bulb. I doubt if the bulb was dropping very much voltage, but that's fine. It's got 250 volts going into it. Now, I think I'll wind it back, discharge the capacitor, and I'll just see if I can measure the capacitance. While I had the radio up on its end, I noticed that this pot here has the wires just loose on it. These are not even soldered on. Now this, I presume, is the treble pot. It says HON, H-O-H-E-N or something. And I presume that means treble. And it's the opposite end of the dial to the base. So I can't just leave it like that. I'll just have to solder it on. But that's a further indication that someone has been messing with this radio. Well, I'll just put the valves back in. Given the current market, I can probably sell the valves for more than I paid for the radio, but that's if I can't get it going. Now this one is not easy to get in. Having a little shroud around it, there we go. With the ECC. The ECH81 goes in here. All the valves except this ECH81 are Telefunken, and this has a different brand written on it, and some of the writing's rubbed off, so it still says made in Germany, but it's probably been changed at some time. Yeah, the EF89 Telefunken valve again, says made in Germany, but it says that in English. The EABC 80 goes in here next. And the EL84, I may as well put the EM84 in the tuning indicator socket. Save me losing it or dropping it or something. I might have to leave that EM84 just hanging by its wires. It's not doing any harm there, but I can't get it in. I'll wait till I've got the chassis out of the cabinet before I do that. Okay, so I've decided to throw caution to the winds and power it up on dim bulb. We've got power on there. Put power onto the radio. It's on 0 volts at the moment. This meter is connected to the plate of the output tube, and this is connected to the screen. So let's just dial up a little bit of voltage. The radio itself is turned on. It's only on pickup at the moment, but looking for the dim bulb lighting up, which it doesn't seem to be doing, and bringing it up to 200 volts. And that's about 220 there. Not seeing a lot on the plate, or the screen for that matter. Bit of a concern. The dim bulb's not doing, oh, it has a faint glow in it. Yep, it is glowing a little bit. You can't see that well with the lights on. Might just turn the light off. We have some crackles from it. I don't like the sound of that. And a little bit of hum there, but it comes up with the volume. I'll push the medium wave button. Well, the dim bulb isn't doing anything frightening. It's got a fair old glow in it. Just taking the light off here. .49 volts on the plate. 9.4 on the screen? That can't be right. I wouldn't expect it to pick anything up, but you never know. Well, we don't seem to have any dead shorts and there's no smoke coming out, so I'm just going to try it on full power. Nothing coming out of it, of course. I'll try the FM.
Nói bà. I wanna hold them like they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. I love it, play the one that's on his heart.
Well, it works on FM. Doesn't work on medium wave. Nothing. Not sure why that might be. And that's L. I presumed it was long wave. I don't know. Nothing on long wave to pick up, of course. And K, I guess, is short wave. Well, it seems to work on everything but medium wave. I'll have to have a poke around and find out about that, but this was just a preliminary check anyway, just to see if it did anything at all, and quite happy that FM works. At least I don't have to fix that. And the medium wave, well, we're just going to have to trace the circuit, find out what's going on, and see if we can fix it. Well, that's good. The electrostatic tweeters are working as well. And the tuning indicator's working. Okay, well, I don't want to run it too much like this. There's all those paper capacitors in it and God knows what. So I think it's about time we got this out of the case. The knobs have a little recess in the edge with a grub screw. A little bit hard to get. I think that's it, but I can't quite turn it. Yep, that's got it. It seems pretty straightforward. I'll just loosen this one. Now the only things remaining, this is unplugged, are the speakers which are screwed to the cabinet. So I'm just going to cut them off. I did make note of where they go, but I'll leave a little bit of the wire colour on top of the speaker transformer there just so I don't have any trouble later on. And the two black wires, one to the tweeters and one to the main speaker. This tone control module looks like it unplugs from here, so that should be alright. So now, and I'll need to get in there and unplug this. There we go. I can't help comparing the ease of removing the chassis from this to the Philips set I did recently. And there it is, dusty but pretty much intact. So I'm probably going to have to make up some kind of a stand to turn this over. It's not going to sit nicely by itself anywhere. So the inside of the cabinet looks dusty, but nothing you wouldn't expect. There are these rubber grommets that supported the chassis. The speaker and the tone controls are all mounted on this baffle, which I think will unscrew as a unit. Might make life easier. The tweeters have these little metal clips on them which don't look easy to pull out. There are little circular clips on these pins which have to be prized off, hopefully without breaking them. A couple of them have disintegrated into rust, but I think that now I should be able to get the speaker baffle out. Yep, there we go. So that's the grill cloth's in pretty good nick. I'll give it a clean up and hopefully it will come up okay. You can see it's faded a little bit by comparing around the edges, but it's not too bad. I just noticed that this end has this broken off piece of plastic which obviously came from the grill surround. That's not visible from the front, so I should be able to put that back together without any dramas. I don't want to damage this taking it off. I'll just put it on there and prise this washer off. Well, look at that. That's in beautiful condition. Felt surrounds, unlike most of what you see. I'll have to be careful with that. I'll put it aside where it won't get hurt. I've made up a wooden stand so I can turn it upside down or on its back. That'll make life a lot easier, although it took a little bit of time. And I guess I'll start on replacing the paper capacitors. There's quite a few on the circuit board here, so I might make that the first stop. There's various others around the place, quite a few underneath the chassis as well. So I'll just work from one end to the other, as I usually do, and possibly do some other repairs as I go. Well, I've worked out how to get the printed circuit board loose from the chassis. I don't plan to entirely remove it. That's going to be more effort than it's worth. I'm just going to get it to a point where I can lower it down to change the capacitors that I need to change on it and put it back. I'm a little bit nervous of these old printed circuit boards. They can develop faults without you realising. This one looks a little bit corroded around the edge, but it doesn't look too bad. I've lowered that down, I think enough to allow me to get to everything I need to. I don't want to have to desolder all the connections to this. That would risk getting lost in the wiring apart from anything else. Okay, so just clip him off at the bottom there, and that's its lead. I'll just get the sucker in there and clear out the hole. There we go, that's cleared the hole. That was it. Now, I can either get the soldering iron or the sucker in there, but not both at the same time. That capacitor, by the way, doesn't look particularly healthy. So it's probably as well out of there. Well, I've finally managed to get the rotten thing through the circuit board in with the legs in the right holes. And now all I've got to do is get an iron in there to solder it. This just reminds me of all the reasons I don't like working on printed circuit boards. I'll just bend those a bit so it doesn't fall through when I turn the chassis over. Okay, I should be able to get some solder onto them. Right, that looks good. Just clip the leads. Easier said than done. How am I going to... Alright, well that's the first capacitor changed. Only about 100 to go, but hopefully they won't all be as difficult as that. I think I must have picked the most difficult one to start with. Okay, well, I've replaced all the paper capacitors on the circuit board here, except for two, and they are these two 100 picofarad paper caps. And I must say I've never seen a 100 picofarad paper cap. They're usually silver micas or something like that. In any case, I don't have a replacement for them. I can't seem to get a 100 picofarad cap at 500 volts anywhere. They're just not available at the moment. So I'm hoping they're okay, and if they prove to be faulty, I'll have to possibly put in a second-hand one out of an old chassis, or maybe I'll be able to get one by then. In terms of getting things though, I have got the capacitors I need. I've got a nice 1000 UF 450 volt and 47 UF 450 volt, so they're going in the power supply. I've got a bridge rectifier and a selection of resistors that I can mess with to compensate for the additional voltage that I'm going to get when I take out the selenium rectifier. And that's about it for now, but there's quite a bit to do on this still, so I'll keep on working through the rest of the chassis. There's quite a few paper capacitors wired point to point in the rest of the chassis, so I've got quite a bit to go before I can fire it up and test it again. I just turned it upside down to continue recapping it, and I just noticed something. I'll see if I can show you. It will be difficult to see on camera, but this is the medium wave section of the switch, and I was just looking at the components around there to see if I could see anything amiss, and I noticed this, and I'll just zoom in. This coil here is, the connection is loose. It's not connected. I checked it, there's no continuity across this coil. And looks like the wire is going into there and has come off that contact there. Now the wire is so fine, it's going to be quite interesting to try and deal with it. But I've done as bad before, I suppose, so I will hopefully get a connection in there, and I don't know if that's going to be the problem with our medium wave. It looks like a likely culprit, but I could just as easily have bumped it while I was handling the set. The fault with the medium wave could be something else. I don't know, but one thing for sure, it is going to have to be fixed. So I'll finish the recap before I get onto that, and then I'll make a little project of sorting that out. Well, there's still quite a lot to do on this radio. It's very different to anything I've worked on before, and I'm slowly finding my way through it. If I can get it going, and I'm a little bit more hopeful now that I've found that problem with the coil, although I don't know if that's the problem at all or not. There's still a lot of cleaning to do. There's quite a lot of work to do on the cabinet, and I don't even know how I'm going to attempt an alignment. I can do an alignment on the AM section. I could probably align the IF, but my frequency generator won't do the FM, so unless I can borrow one or something, I'm just hoping it's going to be good enough. So I'm going to call this the end of part one. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and if you've had anything to say, just leave a comment. I love getting comments, and if you like what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button. I love subscribers too. Well, thanks for watching anyway, and I hope to catch you next time.